Hi, everyone, and welcome to part 4 of our 5-part series on what is witchcraft. In this part, we are going to explore the idea of paganism. So let's go. So, I stated in one of the earlier videos that witchcraft, for me, is an equal braid of ritual magic and paganism. Those two things together, for me, make up the path of witchcraft. Now, like I said, you ask any other witch, they're going to tell you something different. This is what I do. So what is paganism? That's what we wanted. We've already discussed and explored the idea of magic. Now we want to talk about paganism. Paganism is a much simpler topic to talk about than magic is. So let me just say this. The word paganism comes from the Greek pagani, which simply means country dweller. In more recent years, in the last 100 years or so, the word pagan or paganism has been recognized as an umbrella term for a person who is not monotheistic, meaning they're not a Christian, they're not Jewish, and they're not Muslim or Islamic. They are of some other path. Usually a pagan path is polytheistic. Polytheistic means that we don't see God as simply as one. We see God as many. There's a God for each aspect of anything that you would need help with in your life that you might want to talk to a god or a goddess about. I happen to be of the faith because of the path that I have followed up to paganism. I happen to be of the belief that there is a God, a central God, a central body of energy whose job is to create. Now, with that said, I am also polytheistic. So what I just described to you is monotheistic. There is a God. So how can somebody who is monotheistic also be polytheistic? Because I believe that this one central God, this creative source, this source energy, makes everything. It makes everything. It makes all the gods and goddesses. It makes all the dragons, fairies, angels, and guides. It makes all the human beings. It makes all of the people. It makes all of the trees and the rocks and the dirt. It makes all the planets in all of the solar systems, in all of the galaxies, in everything that we can imagine with our imagination. This God or this source energy creates all of it, even gods and goddesses. I think, and I've wondered, we have all of these mythologies. We have Greek mythology, we have Egyptian mythology, we have Native American mythology. We have, for every culture around the world, there is a mythology. And there are central figures to that mythology. And so I've wondered over the 23, 24 years of my practice, if those gods and goddesses aren't or weren't at one time people. And they were people who did heroic things and then when they died, they became immortalized, as we call it, where people just kept adding to the legend and adding to the legend of that person until it turned into this beautiful, amazing, gigantic thing. I've also wondered if maybe the gods and goddesses weren't just simply an idea. Somebody said, there's got to be a god of rain. And someone else said, right? And then they started talking about the god of rain. And then everybody started talking about the god of rain until all of a sudden, in all the people's mind, there was a god of rain. At any rate, I really think that the gods and goddesses are energies, living, breathing energies that we can call upon when we are working magic. They can assist us with our magic. They can assist us with our lives. They can assist us with a problem. Ganesh is the Hindu god of overcoming obstacles. And of my entire pantheon, so when you start to collect, well, I work with this god, I work with this goddess, I work with this collection of gods and goddesses, that's known as a pantheon. So Ganesh was one of my very first members of my pantheon, my very first god that I worked with. And he came to me in a dream. I did not seek him out. But from that dream, I developed a relationship with him. So one of the marks of a polytheistic practice is the belief in more than one god or more than one energy. A lot of Native Americans are what we call animistic. Animists believe that, and a lot of pagans are animists as well, that everything has a spirit. So you walk out into the forest and every one of those trees has its own spirit. Every rock has a spirit. The ground has a spirit. The water, the stream that's flowing by has a spirit. And as pagans, we find each one of these entities to be useful. When I'm having stress, one of the things that I have experienced, I'm not saying this is something I believe, I'm saying I have an experience with this. I will go out into the trees and I will sit with the trees and I will put my arms around the trees and press my heart up against the trees and sit with the water and listen to the water and imagine the water just carrying whatever stress I have away, and the trees take my stress into them and down into their roots and down into the ground where the Mother Earth can cleanse it and use that energy again. When I go out into the trees, I feel healed. Have you had that experience? So for me, that is a very spiritual experience, to go out into the trees, to sit on a rock, to listen to the water. Sometimes I take my shoes off and I feel the dirt with my feet and I let whatever's bothering me drain out the bottom of my feet. That is a pagan experience. That's what I call a pagan experience. Now, somebody else who has the same practice may call it something different. And that's fine, because we don't care. So paganism centers around a polytheistic idea of God. Now, not all pagans are polytheistic. Some have one central entity that they work with, and that's fine as well. Another indicator of paganism is the worship of the earth. Now, I don't like to use words like worship unless I can define them for you. So the word worship, the way we started talking about worship in magic school many years ago, means relationship. So if you are into, here's another pagan practice, if you are into ancestor worship. So let's say you're connected to family members who have gone before you. They've passed out of this life, and you can just feel them watching over you. You just know they're there. That is a form of ancestor worship. And maybe you leave little offerings for them, milk and cookies, or, Auntie M's favorite dish was cornbread, and you found this amazing recipe for cornbread, and so you leave out, when your family eats cornbread, you cut out a little piece and you leave it for Auntie M. That is ancestor worship. When you are talking, when you are having a relationship with your ancestors, and you are including them in your daily life, the way we would include a god or goddess in our daily life, that is a form of relationship. That is a form of worship. So ancestor worship, polytheism, earth worship. Now, how do we come into relationship with our Mother Earth? The parent, I might add, who makes sure that we are sustained by growing food, by being involved in a system that creates water. What do we have without food and water? And there are some people who worship the sun. What does the sun do for us? It only makes it possible to exist on Mother Earth, and is also involved in growing food. It's also involved in that system that creates water in our atmosphere. So there's a lot of different pieces of paganism. And another piece of paganism is the deification of the elements and the directions. So let's talk about that for a minute. So we have the elements. So what are the elements? The elements are earth, air, fire, and water. Now, if you look at the composition, the chemical composition of blood and tissue, it is similar to the chemical composition of earth, of dirt. Okay, so one could actually say that our flesh and our bones are made of, well, we're made of carbon for one thing, and the dirt also has a carbon composition, right? So our flesh is earth. Our blood is water. That's another element, water, hydrogen and oxygen. And we are made up. Scientists used to say 70% water. Now they're saying it's a little closer to 90. Okay, so we have this huge water inside of us, this presence of water, and water is one of our elements. Another one is fire. So where do we get the fire? The fire is in our cells. It's this arcing and sparking of the atoms and the neutrons and the nucleus and all of this stuff, just arcing and sparking. Okay, so that's earth, fire, and water. And what about air? Air plays a huge role in our existence by coming into us, going into our lungs, going out of our lungs into our circulatory system and taking oxygen throughout the body. Taking oxygen throughout the body. It goes into the bloodstream, oxygenates all of our cells, comes back through our heart, and this oxygen can actually be measured inside of us with a thing called an oximeter. Put it on your finger. It's a little clip, and you put it on your finger. And many of you are familiar with this, I know. And you look at the little screen. The screen needs to say 87% or more. That's how much oxygen needs to be inside of us. So what would happen if let's say water cease to exist inside of our bodies. We call that a mummy, don't we? Nothing inside, no moisture inside, all dried out, all dehydrated. We would die. With the absence of any of the elements, we would die. So for us, the four elements, earth, air, fire, and water, are deified. Now, what does that mean if something is deified? We look at it as a god or a goddess. We look at it as a powerful entity that has a place in the universe. And the same way with the directions. So when you come and you sit in a magical household and you do a ritual with that person, they're going to invite the elements, earth, air, fire, and water. They're going to invite them into the ritual. They're going to invite north, east, south, and west into the ritual. Because these elements and these directions have a place in our universe, hold a very powerful place in our universe. And if one of the directions cease to exist, our universe no longer exists, our planet no longer exists. That place becomes a sucking hole, becomes a sucking vacuum, and everything falls into it. And what we know as the order of the universe ceases to exist. So that's another aspect. So we have earth worship, we have ancestor worship, we have gods and goddesses worship, and now we have the elements and the directions. Paganism is not limited to the things that I'm talking about here. I know some pagans who are deeply devoted to the Christian Savior, Jesus. I love Jesus. I can tell you all the reasons why I love Jesus. I'm a pagan. I get to do that. I get to have that relationship. My mind and my heart is open to see the good in each thing. One of the things that we do in magic school is the third year of magic school is called Cultural Mythology and Magic. So we study 5 different cultures. There's a gazillion cultures around the world, so I don't have time in 20 lessons to teach all of that. So I had to limit it down to 5 cultures. And what we study is, how did they feel about life? What was their socioeconomic norms? What was their ideas about child rearing and marriage and work and education? What was their culture like, superimposed over the top of their system of magic? And how did their beliefs and their practices and their culture affect their magic? For an example, in Kemetic magic, which is from the Egyptian culture, in the ancient days, they were very concerned with burial and afterlife. And so a lot of their magic was all about burial and afterlife. And there's a little thing in there about some judgment too from one of the gods, that your heart is weighed against this feather. This god was judging your life. And this was part of their system of magic. So there's many. I don't think we can limit, when you say I'm a pagan. I don't think we can limit what is worship to what is acceptable as worship. I think that we just came up with 5 in this video, and also for me, there's a very religious aspect to my paganism. So not only do I develop relationships with my pantheons, but I have certain practices. Now, the word religion comes from the Greek religios. Now, of course, we know what a is. You have a run, you have a rewrite, you have a redo. You're going to do it over again. You're going to write it over again. You're going to see it over again. So anytime you see the word, the prefix re, that's to do over again. Legios is a connection. So we have this system that helps us connect to the divine. Over and over and over again, we connect to the divine. We do practices. We do religious practices, and we connect to the divine. So, for example, one of my religious practices is on the 8 pagan holidays. Okay, and let me be clear about this. There's not just 8 pagan holidays. There's worldwide, there's a pagan holiday for a god or goddess, a feast day, some sort of celebration, something every single day of the year. There again, who has time for that? So the founder of Wicca, I'm not Wiccan, but the founder of Wicca put together a calendar that had both solstices, both equinoxes, and 4 holidays, pagan holidays. So what I like to do is on the pagan holidays, on the solstices, the equinoxes, and the Celtic holidays, I like to have my friends over and have a potluck. Sometimes we have a ritual, sometimes we don't. It doesn't matter. What's important to me is that we take advantage of the energy that is present during this time for me to be with my friends. And for us, we light candles. Even if we don't have a ritual, we light candles, we burn incense, and we talk. And that is one of my religious practices. Ritual is another religious practice. You can make a ritual for anything. So then there's the observation of the full moon and the dark moons. So every 28 days we have a full moon. Opposite of that, we have a dark moon. And each one of these present us with a specific type of energy. And we want to take advantage of that. So full moon, is a good time to get together and really do some heavy work. Where the holidays aren't really for ritual. The holidays really are more for celebration. But the moons are really a time to work some really heavy magic and to get some stuff done in our lives. Either full moon or dark moon, they have 2 different aspects as to what it is that we're trying to create in our life. So that's a lot, isn't it? So we have ancestor worship, we have earth worship, we have polytheism, we have the deifications of the corners and the elements, and then we have religious practices such as rituals for the full moons, the dark moons, and the holidays. That's a lot, isn't it? Now, have you ever met a pagan? Do you know a pagan person, or maybe you're pagan yourself, who does all of those things? I don't know anybody that way, and I don't practice that way. I really like the holidays. I really like having potlucks and maybe some little something as far as a ritual is concerned, but not a lot of work. Just light some candles, burn some incense, and we all get to talk. Full moons, I very seldom ever do a full moon ritual because I just do my magic when it needs to be done. So I made the disclaimer in I think it was video before part of the lesson before last, where I said every magical person, every witch does it differently. And when we talk about the pagan part of witchcraft, the connection to the divine part of witchcraft, it's the same thing. Nobody does it exactly the same. And that is really one of the brilliant things about this path is that you get to decide how you want to do it. You don't have to use the W word. You don't have to call yourself a witch. You don't have to call it witchcraft. The whole point of the path is to help us feel connected. In my practice, I want to feel connected to myself. I want to feel connected to my gods and goddesses, and to my spirit guides, and to my angels and my dragons and my fairies. I want to feel connected to all of that. I want to have a relationship with the earth. I have an altar in my home. The altar is up all the time, and presented on the altar are the directions and the elements and items to represent whatever is fixing to happen, whatever. We're waiting on Yule now on the 21st, so my altar is set up as a Yule altar. Some people set their altars up in honor of that full or dark moon. Some magical people set their altars up to represent what it is they're trying to create in their life. So this is a very, very creative path. And Aleister Crowley, who I'm not necessarily a fan of, but he made a mark on the magical world. And he said that magic is a combination of science and art. So we know that magic, if you listen to my YouTube video, all I talk about on that channel is the energy and vibration of healing, the energy and vibration of creating your life, the energy and vibration of becoming fully into your truest self. I talk about energy and vibration. That's what magic is. It's energy and vibration. A relationship with the gods, with the goddesses, with the earth, with the elements and the ancestors. This is energy and vibration. It's all energy and vibration. How you express that energy and vibration is where the art comes in. I have a beautiful altar sitting up in my home all the time, and I use that as my artistic expression. So you get to do it however you want to do it.